And finally today, the story of a young man's winding path to the priesthood, the people he touched along the way, and the impact he made on the lives of many, all in just 247 short days. Father Daniel Kennedy Jr. was ordained by Cardinal Sean O'Malley to the priesthood of the Archdiocese of Boston on May 26, 2007. It had taken this 33-year-old young man, who was born in Western Massachusetts, a little while to get to this step in his life. Danny Kennedy was one of 5 children born to Daniel and Alice Kennedy, who lived in Westfield before moving to Needham, Massachusetts when Danny was 8. He was a typical boy, playing sports, going out on dates, graduating from Catholic Memorial High School and from Providence College.
He reflected joy. He reflected joy. I mean, it's amazing, and almost everybody who knew him was so happy to know him.
After college, Danny had entered the seminary for a bit, then took a leave of absence. But his parents, especially his mother Alice, who passed away from Alzheimer's disease earlier this year, thought he would go back.
And it turns out that, as always, Alice was correct, and he did go back in the seminary, fully charged and fully determined to pursue his vocation and become ordained. And he never looked back after he was ordained to the holy priesthood.
And Father Dan hit the ground running, so to speak, as a rookie priest at St. John the Evangelist Parish in Winthrop, training to run the Boston Marathon, and serving aboard the USS Nimitz as a Navy chaplain. Then the unspeakable would happen. After just 247 days as a Catholic priest, Father Dan stopped in to visit his brother Jack in Connecticut.
He told him, he said, "I just had a wonderful day. I said Mass at St. John the Evangelist in Winthrop this morning, and then drove to Fairfield, Connecticut, and baptized the baby daughter of a good friend of mine, and now I'm on my way back to Boston, and I'm going to be reassigned to South Boston." He said, "Life couldn't be any better. I just love being a priest." And as he talked, the bottle of beer he was drinking fell to the floor, and he died.
It turns out that Father Dan had an undetected heart condition that led to a heart attack January 27, 2008, just 11 days after his 34th birthday. While mourning their loss, Dan Sr. decided to memorialize his son by writing a book, part biography and part vocation story, in the hope that others would be inspired by the priest who lived to serve with such faith and love and joy. He titled the book 247 Days, Father Dan Kennedy, a Proud and Happy Priest. Throughout the pages, there are stories of growing up in Westfield, Father Dan's relationship with then Bishop Joseph McGuire, who he says always thought young Danny would make a fine priest someday, and Father Francis Riley, now the pastor of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish in Northampton, who grew up next door to Danny's grandparents in Springfield, recalling the time Danny had visited him while Father Riley was a spiritual director at the American College in Belgium.
Danny was in Paris, and he took a day off, and he came to see me, and we had a great day. We had a Mass, and we rode around Brussels and Louvain and different things like that, and he went back on the train to Paris. And I don't know, we just kind of always were supportive and very happy that he wanted to be a priest, and nobody's going to say if nobody was forcing him, but I'm glad that he chose again to be a priest. And so he just figured it out for himself, the kind of priest that he wanted to be, and he responded to the call.
And Dan Sr. says he hopes many more men will respond to this call after reading the book, which is dedicated to his wife Alice. His passion is clear as he reads a passage quoting Father Dan's good friend, Father Matt Westcott.
Father Matt said, "Father Dan loved a good time with his family and with his friends. He loved practical jokes and giving those he loved a hard time. But most of all, he loved being a priest and serving the people of God. As he told me many times, he had a great love for the people of God, and he wanted to serve them." And that truly is what Dan was all about.
And Father Riley sees an additional message of hope and joy.
Looking at this and reading that book, I'd say that I really loved Danny a lot, and you know, when you lose somebody that you love so much, the sadness is so great. So we continue to share that sadness with the Kennedy family. But with the Thanksgiving, that Danny was such a star. Yeah.
A star, an object in the sky that sends out its own light. A light that still continues to shine brightly long after those 247 days. What a special tribute to Father Dan and to the priesthood that he obviously loved so much.